Today's video is basically going to be a sit down video discussing Kash. A lot of you may not know, I have a 3-year-old son named Kash who has spina bifida. And that was really my main reason for wanting to start a YouTube channel, was to document Kash's life, because I know when I was pregnant and I found out that my baby had spina bifida, the first thing I did was look to YouTube to see if I could, find another family who was documenting, their son or their daughter going through the same thing. And I actually only found one YouTuber doing it. So I kind of wanted to start my own channel to kind of give light to, children with spina bifida. Okay, so what is spina bifida? I know you've probably seen my son, in the little videos we've posted in his wheelchair. Basically, spina bifida is when your spine doesn't close completely at the bottom part of your spine. So he's a L4 sacral. His lesion is sacral, so it's like at the bottom of his spine, close to his butt almost. He has some sensation in his legs. He has no bladder or bowel control, but he does not have to be catheterized. He may be in diapers for forever, possibly, but I don't know if he's joking. But sometimes he tell me he has to pee. He may just be joking, because he kind of has a neurogenic bladder anyway, so he kind of tinkles all day anyway. Yeah, basically I found out that my son has spina bifida because it's kind of crazy. I went to the emergency room, I think I was like 14 weeks, because I did not want to wait until my 20-week anatomy scan to find out what I was having. Like, I had already been buying stuff because I really wanted a daughter. I had already been buying stuff, so I really wanted to know what I was having. And also, I was having back pains. So once I went, the doctor did all the tests for me and everything, and they were doing an ultrasound. And mind you, this was the first time I've ever seen my baby on ultrasound, and everything looked normal to me, but the nurse didn't look like everything was normal. And so she called a doctor in and everything. Well, I'm saying nurse, the x-ray person, the person who does like the ultrasounds, the ultrasound technician, my bad. So yeah, so their face didn't look like, so a doctor came in or whatever, and they explained like he had a sac on his back, basically. There was like a fluid filled sac. And me, I went and started looking stuff up as soon as they left the room or whatever, and I'm like, what could this be? Like, the first thing I thought in my mind, like, I seen spina bifida come up, but I was like, I know this may sound weird, but I was thinking in my head, I'm like, black people don't get spina bifida. That's a European disease, like, but it's definitely not. I was very ignorant at the moment. So, I was just like, okay, everything's gonna work itself out. Like, I had prayed for my son for a really long time, because before I got pregnant with Kash, I had a stillborn. Kash had an older brother named Princeton, and I had a stillborn. And I honestly didn't want to have any more kids after that, because I thought I couldn't. I just thought I couldn't have kids. But God blessed me with Kash, and he stuck, and he was healthy. And every time, like, I went to the doctor, his heart was beating, he was growing, everything was good. But then out of the blue, I found out my God-sent child isn't ever gonna be able to walk. But even, though they told me that then, like, they gave me some paperwork and stuff, I was looking stuff up. They still couldn't verify everything until my anatomy scan. Oh, and also at that 14-week emergency room visit, they told me Kash was a girl. He's definitely not a girl. But yeah, so at my 20-week anatomy scan, which was the day before my birthday, they pretty much confirmed that he had spina bifida, and he actually had a really really intense case of spina bifida, and his brain also, he had hydrocephalus. So hydrocephalus is when the brain is filled with fluid, because your cerebral spinal fluid is made in your head, it travels down the spine, and like it's like it works like that. Like it just comes from your head, goes down to your spine, and it just circulates like that. But with his spine being exposed, the fluid had nowhere to go. Like the back part of his brain sunk into the bottom of his neck, and it pretty much blocked everything. So all the fluid was just making his ventricles in his head extremely big. That was a lot to hear. But they gave me some options. From the moment in my 20-week ultrasound, from the moment like they verified that he had spina bifida, it's kind of like they were pushing the issue of, pushing an abortion for a medical reason, because they said his life would be hard. He wouldn't have any quality of life. He would be deaf. He would be blind. He would be mentally disabled. He wouldn't be able to walk. He wouldn't be able to do anything by himself. And with me being 19, and this is my first kid. Like, this would be my first child. I didn't know what to think. And I'm not even gonna lie, I thought about it. I thought about abortion because I didn't think I would be capable of being his mom. I told myself I wasn't gonna cry. And that's him screaming. I didn't think I would be capable of being his mom because I was still a kid myself. Like, but his dad, we decided to go to Houston to get a second opinion from this surgeon at the Herman Hospital in Houston. And they do the fetal surgery there, where they would go, like, they would cut me open, take Kash out, fix his back, put him back in, and let him stay until he's ready to be born on his due date or whatever. And so I was so excited about that. I was like, this is gonna help us. He'll be able to walk. Everything is gonna work itself out. Everything is gonna be perfect. So me and his dad, after the baby shower, not the baby shower, the gender reveal, and we found out he was a boy and not a girl. But we took that trip to Houston, and we stayed with a friend of mine. And at that appointment, they told us that his case of spina bifida was so severe that they couldn't do the surgery because he would have to have surgery once he was born regardless. So my heart literally just sunk because I thought that was it. Like, there was nothing else I could do to help. Like, there was nothing I could do. But and also the doctor there was still pushing me to get an abortion. They told me I could go to New Mexico. Mind you, I was about almost 6 months pregnant at this time. They were telling me I could go to New Mexico and get an abortion. And it was really to the point where his dad had to step in, and he was like, no, we're not getting an abortion, and we would appreciate it if you guys would stop trying to push that on us. And in the car, like on the way back to my friend's house, I was so depressed. I was so sad. I could not stop crying. And his dad just looked at me and he was like, so what? We'll just have a son in a wheelchair. But he gonna be a fine son in a wheelchair. And all I could do was laugh because I didn't think of it like that. All I was thinking in my head was, he'll never be able to play basketball like us, because me and his dad both played basketball. He'll never be able to run track. He'll never be able to do any of the stuff like that we did as kids. And that's not fair. I didn't want my son to be in pain for his entire life. I didn't want him to, not be able to do other things that he see his cousins do or his friends do. I didn't want him to be picked on because in Mississippi, where I'm from Mississippi, we live in Texas now, but in Mississippi, kids are mean, especially little kids. They're really mean, and I never did it because my mom taught me to love everybody. But like in middle school and in elementary, kids, all they did was make fun of special needs kids. And I didn't know how severe my son's disabilities would be, but I was really scared for him, for the way that the world would judge him. But, you know, we decided to, you know, go along with the pregnancy and just act like everything was good. Like, I didn't tell any of my family members what was going on, other than like my mom, my grandma, my best friend, his mom, like his family and stuff like that. But other than that, nobody else really knew. And I went along with my pregnancy. I had my baby shower and everything. I was still kind of depressed, like, of the fear of not knowing what it would really be like. But it was okay. But yeah, once it got close to time to have him, like after my baby shower, I was telling everybody, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna have him on the 2nd. Like, I'm not keeping this baby in me longer than 38 weeks. I'm gonna have him on the 2nd. But they had scheduled my C-section, because also if you have a baby with Spina-Bifida, you have to get a C-section. You don't have a choice. I really wanted to push my baby out, but I had to get a C-section because of his lesion on his back. They didn't want to mess it up, and that's fine. But yeah, I carried him to exactly 38 weeks, and I had him on the 2nd, just like I said I would. And yeah, I had to get a spinal for my C-section, and I was really asleep when they pulled him out. But my mom was holding my hand and everything, and she was like, we got a baby, we got a baby. And like, they put him on my face. He wasn't crying or anything. He had so much hair. Like, his hair like went down to his eyebrows, and they put him on my face and they let him kiss me, and his lips covered my lips, and I have pretty big lips. I was like, that baby got some big lips. And they took him away, and I fell asleep. And when I woke up, I was asking my mama like what he looked like, and this and she had took a picture and she showed me, and I was like, that is not my baby. Because he was so hairy, and like his lips was huge. He didn't really, I don't know what he looked like. He didn't look like me to me. So I got up, I went to the portion of the hospital where he was, because they actually I had him at Parkland, and it's right across the street from the Children's Hospital in Dallas. So I went to the Children's Hospital. Like, they had to wheel me over there in like a transport van or whatever, and I was able to see him, and he had tubes all in him. He had like a little mask thing on, and he had already had surgery on his back, so his back was all patched up and stuff, and he was laying on his stomach because he couldn't lay on his back because he had just had surgery. And this was fresh out of the womb. Like, I didn't even get a chance to hold my son before he had his first surgery. So they had him like in this little incubator thing. I couldn't hold him. They had him intubated, like with a tube down his throat and everything. And then the next day came, and same thing. I couldn't hold him or anything. A couple days went by. He had his first brain surgery to put a shunt in his head for his hydrocephalus. And I guess that went pretty well, but they, you know, they had to cut a portion of his hair off. But it's just hair, it grows back. Especially him, he grows hair really fast. But yeah, 2 weeks went by. I hadn't seen my baby open his eyes at all, so I was like, well, maybe the doctors were right. Maybe he is deaf. Maybe he is blind. Yeah, I haven't seen this baby open his eyes at all in the 2 weeks he's been born. But then on one of the days I was sitting there, they had turned the lights on, and he was peeking his eyes open, and he just looked at me, and I was like, okay, everything might be okay. Everything might be okay. So a couple more days went by, and his neurosurgeon came by, and he wanted to talk and see if I had any questions or anything. And I asked him, and I was like, do you think he'll ever be able to walk? And he was like, flat out, no, he will never be able to walk. He's probably gonna need a catheter. And yeah, that hurt my soul, because I kind of was hoping that we had like a little hope. But to hear him just flat out say no, like, it really hurt. And I cried for days and days and days. But then one day I was thinking, I was like, just because he won't be able to walk doesn't mean he won't be able to do anything. Like, there's wheelchair basketball, there are wheelchair Olympics. Like, kids, like, people in wheelchair drive cars, they do everything. So I had to start like kind of thinking positive. My son was in the NICU for 31 days. He was released January the 4th or 5th. He was released January 4th or the 5th. And I was so excited. Like, I was so excited to finally have him at home. But he was only home for one day before I had to take him back to the hospital because he started having seizures. And so they gave us, seizure medicine or whatever. But then they also decided to do an elective hernia surgery that they could have waited to do. And after they did the surgery, he was healing fine, but then he developed RSV. A 1-month-old baby developing RSV for an elective hernia surgery. And I didn't even okay the surgery. I wanted to take my baby home. But yeah, he ended up getting RSV and pneumonia, and they had to keep my baby intubated for another 2 months. And during the intubation, they ended up messing up his vocal cord. So that's why he kind of has a hoarse voice now. But yeah, and then he also developed eating issues during the course of that stay as well. He wasn't released again until March. And once he was finally released and everything was finally fine, his hernia grew back. So he had to have another hernia surgery. And then after that surgery, 2 weeks later, it popped back. So we had to have another hernia surgery. So yeah, we've had a host of surgeries. My son had to have a rectal prolapse repaired. He's had to have brain surgery again because one of his hernias got incarcerated. It got incarcerated while we were on vacation, and he ended up getting sick. He had pneumonia, he had an incarcerated hernia, and then the hernia was causing, it was stuck out, so it was pulling his shunt from his stomach, because the way shunts work, they go from your head. He had a VP shunt, so it was going from his head to his stomach. And because his hernia was stuck, it was pulling his shunt down with the hernia, and it infected the bottom part of the shunt. Like, his poop infected the bottom part of the shunt. And so the infection could have traveled up to his brain had we not got him to the doctor in time. So he had to have a second brain surgery. And throughout everything, my baby always came out smiling. The doctor said he wouldn't talk. He wouldn't be able to comprehend. He wouldn't be able to hear. He wouldn't be able to see. My son sees everything. He hears everything. He's a freaking parrot. He repeats everything. He loves books. He loves to talk. He loves people. And he just has a personality that makes everybody he meets day. I've never met a kid like mine, and I am so glad that God chose me to be his mom. Because, like, when I think back of when I thought about aborting him, or I thought I wasn't prepared to be his mom, Like, this was really my calling. Like, we were literally made for each other. And I wouldn't have it any other way. I wouldn't want to change time to give me a different kid. I love the one that I got, because it seems like he was perfectly made for me. When I'm sad, he can feel that I'm sad, and he tries his best to brighten my day. And it's so sweet. Like, he's everything. He's everything. And I wouldn't trade him for anything. But yeah, now that he's a little bit older, Kash is doing amazing. He's doing things like doctors didn't think he would do. He's been defeating the odds since he was born. And we actually seen that same neurosurgeon that told us that he would never walk recently. Because recently Kash can wiggle his toes. He can feel certain parts of his feet. And he moves his hips. And so we seen that neurosurgeon. And I asked him the same question again. And he was like, well, there's a possibility. He moves his hips. And you don't need your feet to walk. You need your hips. So when doctors say no, remember, God has the last say so. Because I thought my baby would just be a vegetable. And he is nothing but. And even if he was a vegetable, he's still mine. But the best decision I ever chose in life was Kash.